want to turn you to the Bible in the book of Genesis chapter 1, where God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons and days and years." Now, the word for sign here in the Hebrew means a signal, like a flag or a beacon. And the word for seasons is the Hebrew word moadim, and it means festivals, or literally an appointed time. And it's appointed by God for a purpose. So in the next couple of years, 2014 and 15, there are going to be 2 solar eclipses and 4 lunar eclipses, and all of them coincidentally occur on high holy days in the Jewish calendar that God gave. The lunar eclipses break down like this. Passover on the 15th of April, Feast of Tabernacles on the 8th of October, and then the following year, 2015, on the April the 4th, and then on September the 28th. The 2 solar eclipses connect with God's holy days in the same time frame, one on the New Year on March 20th, and one on the Feast of Trumpets in September 13th in 2015. So, these are significant. Why? Because the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give her light on those occasions. It will not happen again this century. In fact, those 6 things, lunar and solar eclipses, will not happen for another 1,000 years. Did it happen in the previous century? Yes. 1949 and 50, following Israel's statehood, and in 1967 and 68, the year that Jerusalem was liberated in the 6-Day War. The previous time this happened was 1492 and 93, so this is an extremely rare time. In fact, 1492 was the time of the Spanish Inquisition. So this is interesting. Now, what's a lunar eclipse? Well, here's an example of one that was held a while back. And a real lunar eclipse, the scientists call it a blood moon. And you'll find some Christian leaders are talking about this because it's significant. We don't fully understand what will happen, but we've got a sign to look for. Here's the first one, which is in April 2014. And it covers all of Europe and Africa and about nearly half of Asia at the height of it. And right in the middle of it is Jerusalem. And I think this is significant. You can get these off the NASA website if you want the others. So what did Jesus say about this? He said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars, which can be translated as meteors, will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So Jesus is explaining what will happen just prior to his return. So we turn to the prophet Joel in the Old Testament, and he said this: "The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord." Very interesting. Now, Jesus' disciples came to him and asked, well, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? Not the end of the world, as some silly people are talking about. Note the order that Jesus uses. It's in Matthew 24. He said, first of all, be aware of false prophets and false religious teachers who proclaim heresy. Well, we've got a lot of TV programs that fit that information. Followed by wars and rumors of wars, followed by earthquakes, famines and plagues, followed by persecution of true Christians, probably by false Christians, people who think they're Christians but really aren't because they haven't given their lives fully to Jesus. And then it's interesting, again, it says many false prophets and deceivers will arise. That's sort of like a repeat, which means it's really going to be significant. And then it's finished with lawlessness. The love of many grow cold. That's why you see these young thugs beating up old ladies and so on, because that's lawlessness, because nobody was adult enough to discipline them when they needed it. And in the midst of all this, Jesus said this gospel of the kingdom, his kingdom, will be preached in all the world for a witness to all nations, and then the end will come. We are actually closer to that target in this decade than we ever have been in world history. It may well be in this decade that actually happens, that every nation on the planet, every people group, every language will hear the word of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So as Yeshua says, now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. And we will say, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Baruch haba Hashem Adonai in the Hebrew.